Administrator recommending approval authorization to move ahead with the TIF consolidation plan and to hire the Allers Law Firm to complete the necessary work. Mr. Marshall, do you have a motion?
I'll pass on making a motion, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else have a motion?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Mr. Stormquist, Ms. Solberg, Mr. Marshall.
Yeah, I just wanted the public to know I'm going to vote no on this issue. I've been on the council almost 8 years now. TIF consolidation was never mentioned in almost 8 years until immediately following the presentation of the multipurpose center. And obviously the community growth district does not have enough TIF money to fund the the multipurpose center. So it's obvious that this whole consolidation is about multi-purpose center and getting enough TIF revenue to fund such a project. I'm disappointed that we aren't open to the public and tell the public the truth. So I'll be voting no to that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Marshers. Well, Mr. Nelson.
Well, just to follow up on Councilman Marshers, I've been here 11.5 years, and the same applies. There's been no mention about expanding the TIF district. It all relates, in my opinion, to the proposed multi-purpose center that has been brought forward and presently in study. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Mr. Stormquist.
Well, that simply isn't true. We've talked about TIF consolidation before we started talking seriously about the multi-purpose facility, and unfortunately, if the litmus test is we haven't talked about it during our 8 and 12-year terms, so we don't need to talk about it now, I guess that would be the true measure of why the community doesn't move forward. The fact is that even if we don't do a multi-purpose facility, TIF consolidation makes sense for the community. We've talked about that. This isn't new news. That's just a gross misrepresentation of the truth.
Thank you, Mr. Stormquist. Mr. Trout has a brief comment.
My comments on that would be that the issue relative to the TIF optimization by consolidating will give us the opportunity to provide.
It's not on. It's not on.
I don't think you guys are here.
No. No.
Mr. Yashevsky, can we get Mr. Trout's microphone up? Or here, I can give him mine.
Okay, relative to the issue of optimization of our TIF district, we're dealing with issues of a declining number of years that are available with the district. When staff talked about it, we realized that the opportunity to fund the multipurpose center doesn't exist with the current TIF money that's available. With the budget implications that we have, at best, it would help us with doing some of the initial things that would be considered for the multipurpose center. It will not fund the construction. We'll need new growth to help us to be able to do that. So what this really is, it gives us the opportunity to help with economic development projects in the latter years of these districts to be able to pull money from other areas for smaller projects that might come about. So that's one of the biggest advantages. And the other that we're having is that if there are things that we want to talk about doing for the multipurpose center, it will give us that opportunity, but it will not fund the whole thing.
And I guess I should clarify, Mr. Trout, are you recommending approval of this?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Is my understanding that Clear Lake was pretty forward-looking and did this about 8 years ago. They consolidated all their TIF districts, and I think it's worked out pretty well for them. Anybody else? Mr. Weaver.
Well, it's Mr. Trout.
Yes.
There's some validity, I think, to what the Councilman Marshers and Nelson are saying. I understand that it is looked at as a sort of revenue for that, but you're telling me that the bigger picture here is also economic development.
Correct.
That would be another tool if we needed to, and if they chose to be in a certain district in the community, we could funnel that money to that project over there.
Right. It's an opportunity to be able to do that.
Right, and so I guess I would tend to agree with Councilman Tornquist. consolidation has been bantered around several years ago too. I wouldn't say necessarily before, because we did talk about the multi-purpose arena back in the late 90s, so that's probably pre, but it has, I can see where they're at, how they're at, but here's where I'm at, not knowing what's going to happen. I do not want to avoid, would this be a true statement? If you had the possibility to fund a multi-purpose arena with TIF, if, say that was the case, could we avoid a vote?
There is a measure that allows us to be able to avoid a vote for funding it with TIF, but there's a recall provision. There's a petition filed that then allows it and would require a vote.
Right, because I think that the reason I'll support this is there's plenty of people on both sides of the fence that don't want it and do want it, and I would have nothing to do with trying to go around that election. I think even Councilman Tornquist is on the record. It'll be an important issue you have over the election of asking your candidates to support an election, a vote for that issue. That's what I don't want to avoid, and I think that's what Councilman Marsters and Nelson do not want to avoid. And I'm with them too. I would certainly call for an election of that because there is such a wide in support on both sides.
Well, I'm sorry. One comment I'll make quick is that if we move forward and we continue to make these steps and we have this funding available and our staff members present their information and then you move into the idea if you want to do a feasibility study, if it's within this district and it meets the guidelines that are there, then we could look at funding a feasibility study with this and in that way. Something that's going to impact the whole county would be paid for by the county, paid for by the school, paid for by the city with that TIF money. So, I mean, we'd have to check the legalities as to whether it can be used, but I think that's the type of thing that it gives us the opportunity to be able to.
So essentially, we could have Walmart pay for that feasibility study without going to the taxpayers directly.
We can have the other increment pay for that. Yes.
One question for you, just as somebody who's been on the job a while and in several different communities, do you support a vote for the multi-purpose arena?
I don't think that's not where we're at in this conversation.
Well, no, I'm asking.
Well, I think I support the process that's allowed for consideration of a vote, that there should be an ability to have a petition. I think that's a good measure that's included within the law to allow people to be able to sign a petition and say, let's have a vote. So if
that's the petition format, but so you're not making the statement that you support a.
I think that whatever the law allows is what should be followed, and I think that that's where we're at. Obviously, if there's a general obligation bond, then it should be, obviously it will be voted on.
And I must say this, Mayor, I think that the people of Mason City pay Mr. Trout $144,000 a year. They look to him as some sort of leadership, and I don't think censoring him is a good idea.
That was the last. I was just trying to keep the discussion based on the TIF subject. So, anybody else? Mr. Hankey.
I guess I'm looking at this a little different. I like the comments that you made, Mr. Weaver, and I agree with them. I'm looking at this from an economic development standpoint. This is going to put us in a more advantageous position if a factory or a company wants to come here and create some jobs in a certain district. This would help us to promote that and possibly give them some incentives in the long term. And I think even Mr. Willett, or Brent, our new EDC guy, I think he's in favor of it. I can see the advantages of this for the long run. So, am I wrong in saying that? I don't think so.
I think he supports it, yes. Yeah. Discussions we've had, he's offered his assistance in order to pursue it.
So, I'll be supporting this too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hankey. Anybody else? Ms. Solberg.
Well, I find this rather interesting because for a year and a half now being on council, TIF has been brought up numerous times, I think almost since the second city council meeting. We've had numerous workshops on it and reactions by prior council people up here with many years of experience. They were enlightened by what TIF was. So it's been brought up at least a year and a half ago, so this isn't anything new. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Solberg. Anybody else? All right. We've got a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, clerk call the roll.
Tornquist?
Yes.
Solberg?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Hickey?
Yes.
Marsters?
Yes.
Weaver?
Yes. All right, well, that was unanimous. Thank you, council.